Hello and welcome back to Iskandaria. Today I'm doing my top 10. I'm just going to jump straight into it. I'm Alex, and with my number 10, The Burning by Evan Winters. I know I'm jumping straight into this. I'm not giving you any time to hold back. The Rage of Dragons, I read this for the first time last year, I think October, and this was really fun. If you haven't read this, it's African-inspired, it's extremely fast-paced, I'd say. You're just bouncing from place to place, it's like an explosive, a chain of explosives going boom, 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 and I love it so much. And it's a power fantasy. It feels like a power fantasy with good escalation, and not even a power fantasy. We have Tao, who's on a quest for vengeance. It's, I'd say, interesting world building connected with a kind of generic base idea for the plot. But it's really fun, and you just keep going on and on and on and on. I love it so much. I don't have too much to say on it. You have this world called, there's an alternate, hell world, and it's really cool because all the monsters keep going there, or the monsters exist there, and it's kind of like a spirit world. And our main character, Tao, you'll see if you read the series, he does something extremely batshit crazy, and it really is insanity that he does this in this series, and it makes him go crazy pretty much. And I love that. I love the mental repercussions that we see in these books, the way we kind of get a depiction of insanity with Tao, and it's very well done. It makes you feel so good when he beats the crap out of everybody he hates, because it was just very well done. I think this might be my favorite debut book. I originally thought Assassin's Apprentice was a debut book, but it's not. So I honestly don't know if there's... Oh, wait. It's one of my favorite debut books. Now, for my number 9, I have a hot take here. Look at this. Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth in general, but my favorite from the Lord of the Rings is the Silmarillion. I know this is a hot take, by the way. I love this book. I like Lord of the Rings. I really enjoy The Hobbit. I know not everybody can get into the Silmarillion, but I love this book so much. It makes the world feel much more unique than everything else. So when we go look at some things like the Wheel of Time, all these Tolkien derivative things, we can see all that in Lord of the Rings. When we go back to Lord of the Rings, we see everything that was being drawn on to create things like the Wheel of Time, and all of these... The Wheel of Time isn't Tolkien derivative, but, I mean, to an extent it is. But the more Tolkien derivative fantasy things, we will see they pull on the original Lord of the Rings, but not the Silmarillion. In the creation story here, which is absolutely fantastic, also just look at this edition of the Silmarillion. It's just stunning. I love it so much. I need to frame some of these, I got maps inside of it. It just makes me happy. I love maps. I frame them and put them on my wall, and I'm screwing up here. I'm sorry. Anyways, the very rich history that we see in this book is just so amazing. I love how music gave birth to the world, and I guess it's just my love of music coming through and making me see, oh, that's so cool. It's kind of unique, and it feels like a mythology, which was Tolkien's aim, and it works so well. I love it so much. And now for number 9, I have the first law. I actually haven't read the standalones, but I have an interesting journey with these books. I liked the original trilogy. I don't think I'd ever tell somebody to start in the original trilogy, which I know is heresy. It's a terrible thing. But the original trilogy, I just enjoyed it. I mean, if you've read the original trilogy, you know why in the third book I was pretty much all aboard the train. But it was in the Age of Madness trilogy that I really fell in love with this series. And on any given day, I might actually change between Lord of the Rings and a little hatred for my number 8 spot. But for now, it's going to be Age of Madness and the entire First Law series. I haven't read the standalones. I'm not sure if I've said that before. But I loved this trilogy. These covers are stunning. I don't actually like the American. I don't like the covers for the original First Law trilogy. But the Age of Madness trilogy, it's just so stunning. I love it so much. You have all these badass covers with a wolf. Admittedly, you give me a wolf and you just make me happy. That's why I'm very excited for those new Song of Ice and Fire covers. And I just love this trilogy because we get so much of that nuance, in particular with the couple we see in this first book. And I loved how this kind of parallels the Industrial Revolution. I was doing a little bit of research, or I was learning a little bit more about the Industrial Revolution as I was reading this, and just parallel. That was not intentional. It just happened, and I thought it was really cool seeing all the parallels between the Industrial Revolution and this book, because it was going through its own Industrial Revolution, and I thought the revolts. There's so much in the way of power play, in the way of corrupt systems, that if we look at the Age of Madness trilogy, we can find a scary lot of problems we find in the Age of Madness trilogy in our real world. And that's really terrifying to me. But I thought that was so cool. I loved how our tech revolution that's currently going on with the AI and all that, we can find some parallels over here, and I thought it was the perfect time for this trilogy to be released from 2019, 2020, 2021, I think, and it worked so well. I love it so much. Now, for my next trilogy, it's not finished yet. I haven't read The Faithful and the Fallen, but the Bloodsworn Saga. This, number one, can we talk about this cover? This cover is awesome. I love this cover. It's just really cool. I don't know what else to say. We got the dragon, we also got the wolf over there. I'm not sure if you can see that in the camera. But I loved some of the scenes in Shadow of the Gods were split between 3 different characters: Orca, Varg, and Elvar. I think it's Elvar, is that right? Who knows. Elvar is searching for treasure. Orca is trying to get... That's on the back of the book, right? Give me a minute. Okay, it's not on the back of the book. So I'll go ahead and tell you right now, Orca is on a journey that is awesome. Or, well, not awesome, but the things she does on that journey just make me think, holy shit, this lady is a badass and is one of my favorite characters. And then there's Varg, who is a former slave and trying to get safety alongside the Bloodsworn, which are a crew of mercenaries, I think? I can't remember. It's been a little bit since I've read the books. I loved the second book so much more. I thought every character was developed and evolved in a very natural way, which I thought was very interesting because I think a lot of people don't like the second book nearly as much as they love the first, but I was the complete other way around. Or at least that's what I've heard from chatting with Nut, or from Jimmy Nutwork. God, so many different names he goes by, and Petrick Leo in their videos talking about The Hunger of the Gods. I loved that book more, but everybody's entitled to their own opinions. I found second book better. I'm super excited for the third book coming out. I'm probably going to do a review on that because I love this trilogy. Don't expect a review for the first two books because I don't really want to reread these. I have the memory to hold me, and I will do that. Now for my number 6, that's 6, I think. This is probably something you've never heard of. It's a manga by the name of Pandora Hearts. So, if you know Alice in Wonderland, which you probably do, put it on drugs. Put Alice in Wonderland on crack and cocaine, and I know they're already on it, but make it 10 times more crazy, and more character-focused, and more insane, and confusing to a degree, but also still logical. It's just weird. It's a kind of, how do I say it? Parody. Not even that's the right word. It uses the names from Alice in Wonderland and applies them to completely different things. Like, you get Cheshire Cat, and Cheshire is a guy... Wait, nope. Maybe that's not the right thing I should have used. It's somewhere in here, though. Who was the character? Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter is a magician somewhere in here, and he controls the chain called Mad Hatter, and there are these things called chains, which I should have mentioned earlier, and there's an abyss. I'm going to throw these things at you because they're cool. An abyss and chains live inside of it, and we have this boy, this is the first page, who is condemned to the abyss, and there's a time skip, so we get to see how the world has evolved without him, how it has changed. I love this series so much because it's just so wonderful. It's so beautiful in terms of how it handles the evolution of this one boy and how he's just learning to truly understand, and how his kindness to pretty much everybody around him is extremely powerful. It's potent, even though there is a gigantic rift between him and some of his family members. It's so good. I highly recommend it if you are willing to give it a shot. And then my number 5, which was recently bumped down, is Berserk. If you have read Berserk, you probably know why it's on here. But if you haven't read Berserk, it is... I just realized a lot of my favorite series tend to take basic concepts and amplify them to tenfold and crazy awesomeness. I know I just threw words out there and tried to see if they stuck. But they stuck in my head. And Berserk is just about the struggle. I read this really young. I should not have read it as young as I did. But who cares? It got me into reading. I think the awful thing... I should actually, before I recommend this to anybody, do not read this if you have a trigger warning. If you cannot take, or not take, if poorly depicted sexual assault, which that is the case in this book, is something that you don't like a lot, then yeah, you may not want to read this series. Because I'm pretty sure it is poorly depicted. I don't know, but most certainly the themes conveyed, when it comes down to it, the character work is brilliant, and the theme of human will, the defiance against fate, the idea that we have to be in control of who we are no matter what. Even if people say there is a fate, we are in control no matter what. We choose to be in control. And I love that so much. It's just made me a more active person in, if I want this, if I want that, I'm going to go hunt it down. And I'm going to do my best to get it. And if I fail, then I fail. But I'm actively trying. And I think it is one of the most brilliant series. In fact, it inspired the next series on this list. And it's just, if you haven't read it and are willing to take some of the most brutal concepts, it's the grim of grimdark, I tell you. But if you're willing to take that, read this series, and I would say read up until halfway or so into Deluxe Volume 5. And if it does not hook you after what happens in this book, or at the end of the last book, then it probably isn't for you, because all this is about the repercussions of pain, of trauma, how do we respond, and it's one of my favorite things. Actually, I kind of want to move that over here. Anyways, my number 4 series, that's my number 4, right? Hold on. That was my number 5, this is my number 4. Nope, this is number 3, that was number 4. Wait, what's missing? Oh! Give me a second. Alright, I'm back. I forgot to get The Bound and the Broken. So, to rewind a bit, number 4 is actually... Wait, no. Berserk is number 4. This is number 5. I thought this was number 5. My bad. Number 5 is The Bound and the Broken. I thought this was just... I love heroics. I love seeing people try to do their best, even if they fuck it up in the end. I thought The Bound and the Broken was an absolutely fantastic example of heroism that can go wrong, but at the end of the day, our characters like Kaelin... This isn't the first book. Oh well, the first book is of Blood and Fire, or The Fall, which you can get for free on Ryan Cahill's website. But it takes the standard boy living in a random village, becoming the chosen one, and going off in an adventure, and runs with it really well. I think after the first book, it just gets it gets better and better, if you ask me. In terms of the first book, it kind of feels generic, but when it comes down to the way Cahill writes his characters, it feels like we're going on a journey with them throughout these 5 books, which he's said there are going to be 5 books. And the way dragons are depicted in this are absolutely wonderful. You feel the connection between the characters. You can see what would happen to our main character if he fails. You can see the stakes get on the line, and it's absolutely wonderful. I highly recommend it because it's just so good. And the magic is kind of soft, kind of hard, and it's really, honestly, outstanding. By the time it got to the 3rd book, I was hooked. This book I finished it's 1,000 pages. I finished it in about 4 days. That's how hooked I was. Only problem with it, be careful. Some of these pages fall out. I am annoyed and sad by that, but oh well, it happens. Now, I'm going to go on to my number 3. Sun Eater. Sun Eater is... If you haven't heard of Sun Eater by this point and you're on BookTube, you're crazy. But, oh well. It is about a guy who took a son and committed genocide. How about that? Well, there's your pitch. See ya. Anyways, Berserk helped inspire number 3, this guy right here. And Kingdoms of Death was where I fell in love with this. Oh, that's why I grabbed Kingdoms of Death. I don't have Empire of Silence, you see? And Kingdoms of Death is my favorite book in the series. It starts with Empire of Silence. I know I'm getting confusing at this point. I meant to grab the first book of a lot of things. I didn't do that. Now, again, Kingdoms of Death was... I think I've already said this in my mid-year freakout. I cried for the first time in about 5 years. Absolutely amazing book, inspired by Berserk, and I'm pretty sure that is what Christopher Rocchio has gone on record saying. It's inspired by Berserk. And after this, where it starts to take a turn and we focus more on the mental repercussions of trauma, of loss, of grief, and that's where it just got me in terms of Hadrian Marlowe, and I was all aboard for the ride after this. Now, I'm going to go on to my honorable mentions. Number 1 in my honorable mentions is 11th Cycle by Kian N. Ardalan. If you like Dark Souls, if you like Berserk, if you like Hollow Knight, that's one of my favorite games. 11th Cycle is... Just look at the cover! I think that's it. I think that's all I've sold you, haven't I? Let me actually explain 11th Cycle to you a little bit. It's about this world that is surrounded by mists, and each cycle in evil, I have no idea what this evil is, comes in, and the god who I have to say is so cool, the king of the gods, he has like a sun in one eyeball, the sun in one eyeball, and the moon in his other eyeball. So when it's nighttime, Keenan Ardalan will describe that it's glowing like dimly, and during the sun, that his left eyeball is just blazing and piercing everybody's eyes so they can't look at him. And I think that's so cool. I love it so much. That's just a little bit of the taste of world building you'll get here. It mixes a little bit of Lovecraft. You don't know a lot about these gods. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know anything about the enemy, which we're told is coming up in this series, but he's kind of just looming. We haven't been hinted at, or maybe we have been a little bit, but pretty much no hints as to who the enemy is, and we just know they're an enemy. They want to do something bad, do something evil. I believe that Keenan Ardalan will flesh this out later in the books. Also, another trigger warning for this, very graphic. I think, just very graphic. Be careful. Be very, very careful. If you can't touch Bad Assault, I just realized now I'm dancing around it, but originally I just said, this assault! But anyways, that has the potential to be... I just realized I should have said these are honorable mentions. But this has the potential to be one of my favorite series. I'm not going to say it's my favorite series yet, because it's only one book. I will be there day 1 for book 2. But I don't know. We'll see. I have high hopes, and I think it will be really good. I hear The Broken Binding is doing an edition of this, and I will buy that. I will buy that. This was such a good book. And that was followed by Liza Locke-Lamora. I haven't read past this first book. I might have put that too close to the edge. I don't know. Have I been putting things too close to the edge? I'll find out in the recording, and if I have to, it'll go right above my head. Or maybe to my side, I don't know. But Liza Locke-Lamora, if you know the Liza Locke-Lamora, it's really fun. It's grimdark. I went into this expecting absurdism. I expected Terry Pratchett. And I think if you know Scott Lynch, or if you've read this book, you shouldn't go into The Lies of Locke Lamora expecting Terry Pratchett. So I went in expecting Terry Pratchett and got Scott Lynch. Which is more akin to First Law humor, which, by the way, I should have said this earlier. First Law's humor is amazing. I love the wit that Abercrombie has there. He just makes me cackle with Glokta and the stairs. But here, it's just an amazing ride. I thought that some of the humor worked. I think the first half didn't click with me. But once I got to the second half, there is a turning point. I'm not going to tell you what happens. That's when I was really hooked, and I just kind of went all in. And I'm very excited to see where the series goes. I'm probably going to check it out at some point soon-ish, but I don't know when I'll get to the rest of the series. I have so much on my TBR, and I kind of want to wait for those Broken Binding editions to go on general sale so I can try and get one. And yeah, I really like this book. I'm hoping to see the rest of the series is just as good. I've heard that Red Seas Under Red Skies, which is an awesome name, is just as good as Lies of Locke Lamora. I think it might be a little bit better because now I'm actually understanding these characters. I have a feel for them. And I've heard Republic of Thieves isn't as good as the rest. I'm hoping I don't feel the same way as everybody else. But oh well. That's what I always hope. Now, my next honorable mention is something that I will never recommend to anybody. I will recommend the show, the anime, ReZero. This is a light novel series, which I'm going to get rid of most of it soon, because it's long. And it should not be this long. It is, I think by around the time we got to Volume 16, we finally started getting a good pace. Early on, for the first 15 or so volumes, you could imagine some of these should not have been as small, or some of these arcs should not have been as long as they were. And it was way, way, way too long. That's why I don't recommend it to anybody. But go watch the show. Now let me pitch it to you. Imagine you, just a book nerd, a random nerd, are sent to another world. Selfish. Very selfish. And you expect the world to give you whatever the fuck you want. Not only that, but every time you die, you come back to life at a certain point in time. That can change throughout the series, but my point is, this guy dies. A lot. And that's where the crux of the series comes in, because it doesn't just say, oh, he dies, he comes back. No, we get to see the mental repercussions of death. When you die, when you see everybody you love die again and again, and you suffer multiple traumas again and again, you are not just traumatized once in the same way. You were traumatized in different ways, very different gruesome ways, and you get to see the mental repercussions of that in our main character, Subaru. And I think that was absolutely fantastic how it was handled, because I think it's safe to say the main character, Subaru, he probably is depressed, he hates himself, and there are some emotional moments in this series. Go watch the show. That's what I will recommend. But this series, I say it's an honorable mention because it got really good really soon. But really early on, it was way too long for its own good. Now, for my last honorable mention is The Will of the Many. I think I spotlighted this sometime in my mid-year freakout. I don't actually remember if I did, but The Will of the Many was amazing, and it just has this Roman vibe to it that I don't think I've seen in many other series, and I kind of wanted in more series. I really liked that Roman feel to it. I can't describe it exactly. And I love a good post-apocalypse. This is a post-apocalypse. And I can't wait to see where this series is headed, because the ending to this was very, very, very confusing to me. I still don't understand it, even though I have watched Tutor Ramble's giant video. But hey, I think it's a fantastic book if you are willing to push through the present tense, the first-person present tense, which I think is the worst aspect of this book. I loved it. That's it. I'm going to go to my next number 2, which is the Stormlight Archive. This is my number 2. I love The Way of Kings, I love Words of Radiance, I love Oathbringer, and I love Rhythm of War. People say Rhythm of War is their least favorite. I say it's my favorite, by the way. Just to go ahead and give a hot take there. I love the way depression is handled in this series. In particular, Kaladin is my favorite character. I think that's clear, since I just said that. And Dalinar is really, really good second with the lessons we see from Dalinar. I loved this series so much. In fact, it alone, or not it alone, but it helped push me in the direction of what I want to do in terms of occupation. I think I know where I want to go now. And that is absolutely med school. That's incredibly interesting to me, helping people out, and just the way this... I didn't even think about it, but surgeon, as is... Liren's a surgeon. I didn't think about that, but just the way mental health was depicted made me do some deep research into what mental health is, how trauma works. I have... it's not on my shelf, actually. It's somewhere. I'll find it one day. It's here, around my house. The Body Keeps the Score. I have a couple books on trauma that I'm looking to get into. And it's just very interesting stuff, and I hope to kind of apply that in some of my future videos. Now, that's about it for these. Now for my favorite series of all time, which I don't think is a shocker if you've seen my mid-year freakout. Robin Hobb. I love these books, which is so interesting because everything else on my top of the favorite series tend to be very mystical, or not mystical, alien, foreign. This is kind of your traditional medieval-ish fantasy, and I love this so much because we see Fitz's journey through life. I'm actually not done with it. I have Fitz and the Fool trilogy left. I'm going to get to that next month whenever we get it here in the US in this paperback, because I love these paperbacks. They're awesome, and I wish that the Rainwild Chronicles was in it, but at the same time I understand why it's not. I'm going to make a video on that later. But you can start from either of these. Wait, what is this? There's a thing in here. I just realized. Oh, wait! I just realized. So, I lent this book to a friend of mine, and she read the entire book. Oh, wait, this is her interpretation of the sea serpents! Okay. I'm really happy now. You just got this here. I have not opened this book since I lent it back after I gave it to my friend to read. Oh, that's so cool. I'm so happy. This just made my day. I'm gonna have to tell her thank you. I didn't know that. She said, "Oh, you have a bookmark." And I just thought that it was one of these, like, clip-on bookmarks, if you can see this. I thought it was one of these. But no. She was talking about a bookmark she made for me. Oh, it's so cool. Look at this. Oh, I love it. Anyways, this series, the character development, I'm so happy about that. You're going to have to hear me talk about this until the end of the thing. And I'm going to make a short of that. But this series is just fantastic. It's wonderful in terms of the way we see characters develop. The way we have this on and off bounce between characters. For some characters, you can't even define their relationship as a friendship or a romance. And I wouldn't call it a romance, by the way. But I think that what's beautiful about Hob is that she incorporates all these aspects of life and understanding one another. We're trying to understand one another and really, really love one another in these books. And it's just so potent, the way she gets to it. We have the wit, which is this magic that connects everything and through this interconnected web of spirituality, and that's actually something I take at face value, and I love it for that, because what I feel she's trying to convey is, if we don't understand one another, if we try not to understand each other, if we refuse to understand each other, I think that's a better way to phrase it, then we are doomed. But we can understand one another if we try. If we try to understand and love one another, even if we can't love one another, understanding one another and pushing through our preconceptions of them, our prejudices, it's so good. I think I would say that Robin Hobb should be taught in school. That is how brilliant I think Robin Hobb is. But even though she doesn't have the most well-developed characters in this first trilogy, I think the best antagonist of all time is in the Lifeship Traders trilogy, and I die on that hill. I think I will die on that hill. Because the nuance that we get from understanding a human being helps us give life to them, to say, oh, this person isn't just some awful piece of garbage. They've done terrible things, yes, but there's a reason to it. There's push and pull, and for everything that's been done to them, that human beings try to act out because of it. It's so brilliant. I think everybody should read it, because it teaches some of the most important lessons in life. I love it so much. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. I love this so much. I'm gonna see if I can put this on my shelf. Anyways, thank you for watching. This has been Alex, or Iskandar from Iskandaria, and I'm going to get a Wickwire Watch review out soon. That's why I am uploading this earlier than I had expected. I wasn't going to do that, but I'm blazing through Wickwire Watch, and I'm so excited to make a review on that, because it's really good. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for seeing me react to this thing, and I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day.